And now, Maine Web News.
Thank you. I'd like to see if you're ready to do that afterwards, not before. But thank you so much. You know, it's an interesting story. I was here in 1985. Do any of you remember? I came here on an extradition when I was a detective for Provo Police Department, and a guy had stolen a car in Utah and drove out here to cross the border into Canada, and he got arrested in Bangor. And so I guess they're doing their job out here. But it introduced me to the best seafood in the world. Watching the McCain and Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama show, it only taught me one thing, and that is there is no hope in Washington, D.C. Okay? Forget it. I think your Senator Snow has taught you that there's no hope in Washington, D.C. There's no hope of getting through to her. But there is hope in your county. And there is hope, and that's why I wrote this book, The County Sheriff, America's Last Hope. And every citizen should read this. And then I really hope that county commissioners will read it. Of course, sheriffs. I would like police officers all over the country to read it. I would like county attorneys to read it. And as it says in the book, it talks about county attorneys. As it says in the book, we don't absolutely have to have county attorneys on board, but it would be nice if they were. It would help out. But not too many of them will. Most of them will tell you that whatever the federal government wants to do, they can do it. And that is a flat-out lie. And anybody who tells you that, you're going to know tonight, after you see my evidence that I will present to you. I'm a detective. I used to be a detective. Most of this is going to be presented to you in a matter-of-fact form as evidence. And you're going to know that this did not come from Richard Mack. I'm just the messenger. And I'm bringing you the message of a miracle. The miracle of America. And this is all about whether or not we are going to continue to follow the politically correct agendas of the Republicans and Democrats, or if we're going to follow the Founding Fathers. And I think that's an easy choice. I have yet to meet any 10 politicians that come even close to being as smart as any of the Founding Fathers. Even Hamilton, who didn't know what he was doing when it came to federalism issues. He believed in a strong central government, but even Hamilton would probably be rolling over in his grave looking at what we've created today. It is a mess. And there's not anything going on in Washington, D.C. that is not completely and entirely unconstitutional and un-American. The Founding Fathers established a central government with very limited and enumerated powers. And we're going to be going over that too tonight. And so, as Debbie told you, I was the first sheriff in the United States. Back when I was sheriff, I was elected in 1988 and served up until January 1st of 1997. That's when I left the sheriff's office. 8 years, 2 terms, 20 years total in law enforcement. But why would a county sheriff, who all he wants to do is to be sheriff in his hometown in southeastern Arizona, why would he risk all of that to sue his own government? That's not his job. Your sheriff isn't supposed to be suing or fighting the federal government. What's he supposed to be doing? What do you expect? What mainstream thing should your sheriff be doing all the time? First one you're going to say is, enforce the laws, get rid of drugs, make sure traffic's flowing good, what else? Make sure kids are safe at school. You know, yeah, give all these tickets out. Yeah, what else? Yeah. So I think if you ask most of the sheriffs in this country, or most cops, that their main duty, that I think it would boil down to that they need to stop drug trafficking. That would probably be their number one, because if you look at the people in prison, Most of the people, 80% of the people in prison are there because of drugs. Want me to tell you what I say about the drug war?
We've lost. Yeah.
It's as big a farce as the IRS.
Yeah.
It is an absolute method for creating more big brother government. And you want me to tell you what the drug war has done for you? Okay. Can't say anything because it hasn't done anything. Okay? It has done, well, I'm sorry. That's, well, I'm sorry, it's not true. It's made the problem worse. The drug war has created the cartels and made it worse. And let me be perfectly clear here. I hate drug abuse, worse than anybody in the world, including the drug abuse that comes from doctors. And they're some of the biggest drug dealers in this country. And I'll just tell you, I hate drug abuse, but I hate the drug war more. And it has done nothing for America or our citizens or for you or for your children. It really has made it worse. And that's what laws of prohibition do. And even Abraham Lincoln addressed the issue of prohibition. It makes crimes out of crimes or out of things that aren't crimes at all. And that's what this is. And for government to assume the role of protecting you from your own stupidity or from your own addictions or from your own habits is ridiculous. We don't need government here protecting us from our own stupidity. We're going to show you some things that are going to be absolutely astonishing. You've never heard of these things before because the decision that I won at the United States Supreme Court has been hidden from you. And intentionally so. Because let's ask a constitutional logistical question here. When the Supreme Court makes a ruling, do they have an enforcement arm that makes sure that it gets carried out? No. They don't, do they? So who in our government is supposed to enforce the edicts and rulings of the U.S. Supreme Court? No, almost. It's close. And whoever works for whoever the boss of the Attorney General, it's the President of the United States. The President. He's the one I sued. You think he's going to turn right around and enforce this? When we won, you know what Bill Clinton did? He ordered Janet Reno, the Attorney General, so you were darn close, to issue a memo to all the sheriffs and chiefs of police telling them to ignore the ruling and to keep doing what they were doing. True story. Absolutely. I saw the memo. Okay? So, what I want to do is I want to first answer the question why I sued the federal government. What brought me to the point of suing my own government instead of doing the things sheriffs are supposed to do, like in the drug war or in drug trafficking, and keep going after all these guys who like to distribute pot around our communities. And then what this decision did and what we should be doing about it today, and what the answer to today's mess is. And what do we do about it from here? How do we, once again, live in a free country? How do we once again live under the constitutional rule of law? How do we get that back? By marching on Washington, D.C., writing your congressman a letter, calling your senators and congressmen, call the president? No, because if that worked, we wouldn't have all this stuff going on. But we find the answer in our own backyards. And that is, we deal with this at a local level. And we have our sheriffs and county commissioners and our state reps and our governors that catch on to the holy cause of liberty. Who penned that phrase? Do you remember? The holy cause of liberty. Patrick Henry, in his famous "Give me liberty or give me death" speech, he calls this the holy cause of liberty. That's what it is. And so, let me get into this. I just wanted to be a cop. I wanted to be in law enforcement. My dad retired from the FBI. And so I thought, well, I'm going to go back to college, finish my 4-year degree, and I'm going to become an FBI agent. of the 5 sons my dad had, I thought, well, I'll be the only one to follow in his footsteps and become an FBI agent. So I went to school, college, finished up my degree, tried to get the FBI 3 different times, and it just never worked out. And while I was working my way through college, I hired on at the Provo Police Department, I hired on part-time as a meter maid. Official term was parking enforcement cadet. And so, yeah, you know the guys that go down in the little carts and do the marking on the tires? Man, I was good at swiping them tires. And man, I gotta tell you, I am not proud to say that I probably wrote 60 to 70 tickets every day, part-time, 4 or 5 hour shift, okay? And I'll tell you honestly, I've had to repent for all that. Every one of those were abusive in a lot of ways. Primarily because I was giving tickets to inanimate objects. And just supposedly the owner of the vehicle just had to pay those, and that's the way it is. Too bad. Not the person who committed the crime or the infraction, but the owner of the vehicle. And if you're speeding, do we charge the owner of the vehicle if you're in your grandma's car? No, we charge the person actually doing the crime. Not in traffic, not in parking tickets, because it would make it almost impossible to collect that way. So if it's going to make it impossible for government to collect, then we're just going to bypass that principle and just go after whoever owns the car, because it makes it easier for government. And we have a system based today on government by, for, and of the government. Not you. Yeah. So while I'm there, I really get to like the department. And after I graduate and I'm waiting to hear from the FBI, I decide to hire on full-time. I started full-time, and in 1982, I'm a patrol officer. And back to writing tickets. You know, oh gosh, did I write tickets. And our department was very numbers oriented, but we did not have quotas. But after I left Provo Police Department, they actually went to quotas for a while. I don't know if they're still on, but in like '02, they actually established quotas. So now we have a rule that cops get in trouble if they don't find reasons to write tickets. And who gets the benefit of that? The people. So now they're making a rule that you get abused even more. And let me tell you, in the books that I've written, that I call traffic tickets, taxation through citation. That's all it is. It's revenue generation. And I don't know if you've heard, but Detroit, Flint, Michigan, and now the latest, just recently, was San Francisco ordering their officers to write more tickets because they got to balance their budgets. It has nothing to do with safety. Has nothing to do with serve and protect. It's all about they've got to raise more money. And in Detroit and Flint, where the unemployment rate is the highest in the country, who are they doing on the backs of? Underemployed people. Isn't that amazing? And so this is something that I feel a lot of vindication over, because I've said this all along for the last 15 years, that tickets are nothing but revenue generation, and all these cops are just revenue agents. And not only that, but who are they really working for? Insurance companies. Boy, we make a lot of money for insurance companies, don't we? You're required by law to have insurance, and then when cops enforce laws, traffic laws, the insurance companies raise your insurance, and it just keeps going out of this world. Radar tickets alone bring in about $7 billion a year.